Welcome to this ToolHound Learning Center video. In this overview of using the transaction rental module, we'll look at the related data, components, and actions and how they fit together transparently on day-to-day transactions and complete a billing cycle. We begin with the configuration, then implementation through the ongoing day-to-day checkout of inventory, and finally billing at the end of each rental period. The prerequisites for the transaction rental module are the part numbers for inventory that will be rented or sold, the employers and non-stocking locations who will be charged rent, and the definition of stocking locations that will be charging rent. Once the prerequisites are in place, the implementation involves creating the rate sheet and setting the parameters to define how the rent will be charged. Adding the parts to the rate sheet and setting the time-based rates, idle rates if desired, and selling prices for consumables. And setting who will be charged rent by assigning the employers and non-stocking locations. Once the initial setup is done, these will need to be kept updated as new part numbers or entities are added. Rates can be periodically reviewed and revised. Day-to-day, checkout and return transactions go on as usual. Rental charges are triggered automatically in the background. At the end of the billing cycle, the partial billing is run to calculate charges accrued for outstanding inventory before running reports for the billing period. The part numbers you will be charging for and the entities you will be charging rent don't need any special intervention to enable rentals. The stocking locations, the tool cribs or warehouses, from which the inventory will be issued does. The billing location flag must be set to indicate this stocking point is charging rent. Let's take a look at creating a rate sheet. A rate sheet defines how the rentals will be charged for what inventory and to who. You can have more than one rate sheet depending on the pricing structure for different renting entities. However, you can only have one set of rates per part number on a single rate sheet. Flags define how the rental will be calculated. Round up to full period versus decimal portion of rental periods. Calendar months or a number of days in a rental period. Skip weekends and a list of holidays as defined by the organization. Set the maximum charge to not exceed the cost, and display a warning on transactions where the part isn't on the rate sheet. Add parts to the rate sheet one by one using Add Detail, or use Add Part Numbers to fetch all part numbers not already on the rate sheet. Add part numbers is handy when maintaining the rate sheet in the future to ensure parts aren't inadvertently forgotten. You can delete part numbers from the rate sheet if there are a few exceptions. There are two options to mass update rates. Option 1, export the rate sheet containing the parts. Update the rates in a spreadsheet, then import the spreadsheet with the new rates under Import Data. Tip, you can do this at any time in the future as well to maintain rates. Option 2, automatically update all rates as a percentage of cost from within the rate sheet. Tip, you can use percentage of current rate option for percentage increases or decreases across the board in the future. Let's look at how to assign renting entities to existing rate sheets. Assigning the renting employers defines who will be charged rent for issues. Assigning an employer means all personnel associated with that employer will be charged rent automatically when the inventory is checked out. Select the combination of employer and billing location, see why that designation is important, and click plus. Then set the options. Assigning the renting non-stocking locations is the same as the employers. Define any jobs or sites set up as non-stocking location where there is no individual accountability. Select the combination of location and billing location and click plus, and then set the options. Let's look at day-to-day transactions with the rental module in place. Day-to-day, we issue and return inventory as usual. The basic transaction is shown. The only difference is that the browser displays the rate sheet in effect. It's automatic based on the billing location and the employer or non-stocking location for the transaction. It cannot be changed, added to, or any special conditions added. By default, the billing date follows the transaction date, but it can be overridden. Any consumables or non-stock charges will be sold on this date. The rental clock starts ticking as of the transaction billing date and will continue until the inventory is returned. Let's look at producing the billing at the end of the billing cycle. As we've said, consumable and non-stock charges are applied at the time of the transaction or billing date. Any inventory returned will end the rent and the charges will be calculated at the same time. Any inventory still in the field needs to have the accrued rent calculated for the billing cycle period. This is where the partial billing comes in. The partial billing does math. Charges are calculated from either the date of issue or the last partial billing to the end date, which coincides with the end of the billing cycle. Then the charges are applied. Note, if you never run a partial billing, the rent continues to accrue until the inventory is returned, and then you have one lump sum charge at the end. On Rent displays a summary for the item ID on rent. It shows the dates, quantities, transaction number, and charges for this rental. Here you have the ability to pause, switch to idle rates, or exchange, swapping out one item, ending the rent, for another, starting the rent. You can also click the hyperlink to view the details of any specific charge. Transaction Charges shows the detailed view of a specific charge. Access it either on the menu or by clicking the link from the On Rent page for a specific charge. The rental status is the charge type, in this case, a partial billing. The date range, quantity, calculation, and total are shown at the bottom left, and the rates from the rate sheet are shown on the right. This example shows a sale or a sold charge applied when a consumable was issued. Manual charges can be added for exceptions, credits, or supplementary charges. The charge type is automatically set when a new charge is created and cannot be overridden. The part number must appear on the rate sheet, but there does not need to be a rate for the part on that rate sheet. Let's look at reporting on charges at the end of the billing cycle. Reports serve as invoices or statements of rental charges. It's important to set the correct billing cycle dates when running a report. You're always reporting on the end date of the charge, the date the charge was applied. Remember that if something is out past the end of the billing cycle, it's important to run the partial billing to capture those accrued charges. The billing report looks like a statement. It's usually best for project managers or superintendents. The title is Rental Charge. The charges report is more granular. It's usually best for accounting or finance departments and can be exported to Excel for easy import into other systems. Let's review what we've learned so far. Transaction rental piggybacks on transactions, so if the rate sheet isn't configured before the transaction takes place, the rental won't be triggered. Keep rate sheets up to date as part numbers are added or rates change. Run the partial billing regularly to avoid unexpected charges. Use non-stock parts for non-inventory charges, such as miscellaneous fees or credits. Report on date charges were applied, not the duration of the rental. And 99% of the time, missing charges are caused by missing prerequisites or skipped billings. Thanks for watching this video from the ToolHound Learning Center. For any questions, contact our support team, and remember, subscribe and hit the notification bell.